Hey y'all, hope you guys are doing well. It's Sunday and I'm going to be breaking down my song Her in the Logic Pro session and talking about behind the song, how it came about, the songwriting process for it. All the stems, I'm going to go through drums, bass, guitars, synths, vocals, master bus, drum mix bus, all that stuff. Show you all the plugins. I'm just going to go through it all live with you guys right here. And if you can't make the live, then you get to watch the replay, right? So this song actually is pretty personal. It's a pretty personal song. And it came from conversations I was having with my younger brother, my baby brother, who's not a baby. He's 38 years old. But he came down to Southern California because he got admitted into detox, because he was really heavy into fentanyl and methamphetamines, and he was doing both at the same time. And the song kind of came out of the conversations I would have with him as he's been down here in Southern California, recovering and getting clean and all that from these hard drugs, right? So it's actually more a song about an abusive relationship with addiction. So if anyone you know or you yourself has kind of struggled with addiction, you could probably relate to this song quite a bit. But I'm going to be breaking down everything, the lyrics, what they mean. And yeah, let's just dive in. So here's the Logic session. And as I look at the Logic session, everything's colored. I always do hot pink for vocals, red for guitars, whether electric or acoustic, blue for any synths. And you can see I left some of these uncolored, which, we could just color right now just for my sake. And then we have the purple is going to be all your saxophones. And this was a fun one because it had like a sax solo in it and everything. So I'll kind of break down what I've done there and the plugins I have on it. And then we got bass in yellow, and we have drum mix bus and all my drums down here with percussion as well, and layered in drums and samples and all that stuff. All through here, the drum kit all in brown down here, which was all live tracked, and plugins and drum mix buses. And I'll go through everything in this. And I usually, in my notes section, is where I'll start to put all my lyrics, just because I like to have all my lyrics in one place, right? So this is kind of just where I'll write. I'll write on my phone. I'll write on, paper with a pen, I'll write in my head and all my voice memos. But then it all kind of ends up in Logic Pro because I want to have all my lyrics in one place, especially when I need to get them to a music supervisor or someone else, that needs them, or DistroKid, right? So here's all the lyrics. This is very much about addiction. It's very much about the feeling of being on opiates, and the stories kind of that I took away from my little brother's story, of coming clean and detoxing and doing these crazy hard drugs. And Her is kind of a metaphor for, these drugs. But I'm going to just play through the first chorus here for you guys so you can get a little feel of the song. And then I'll break down all the plugins. We'll start with the drums and bass, and then we'll go into the vocals and the guitars and everything else. And if you guys have any questions, if you're here right now, just let me know in the chat. And happy to answer any questions. So I wanted to do this live format so that you guys could jump in if you wanted to live and just ask stuff like, oh, how'd you do that? Oh, can you show me this? So please ask any questions you got. But let's play the song here.
What's another night of losing a grip?
right, so the style of the song I was going for is very much like an 80s. I think it sounds 80s / early 90s because a lot of my influences are from that time period, you know? Like I was born in 83. My parents were born in like the 60s. You know, they're pretty young. And, you know, I definitely have this like feeling because the song is about addiction and it's a personal story and it's coming from stories from my little brother and his experiences and being on these drugs. These like really, really heavy drugs, you know, and them kind of taking over. Because I don't know if you know anybody that's ever been really into heroin or opiates or even pain pills, but my little brother kind of like started with pain pills and this really weird like herb called kratom, you know, and he's still on kratom. You know, it's a very addictive herb. Anybody that tells you like, hey, go try kratom, you know, and you have an addictive personality, I would stay far away from that drug because it is a drug. And he's still not off of kratom, but it kind of was like, you know, Percocets and kratom, and then it went to like heroin, and then it went to, oh, there's no heroin around. Let's try this fentanyl, you know, and just being around the wrong people. And then fentanyl, of course, is like, you know, 100 times more potent than any of these other drugs, right? So, you know, he was doing very little of it to get very, very high. And a lot of really crazy stuff with that is these people that get into this, you know, my little brother, he was like doing fentanyl and hot railing methamphetamines as well at the same time. And the reason a lot of addicts do that is because they want that euphoric feeling of fentanyl and that opiate feeling, but then they want to be awake and they want to be alert and they want to be on meth and they want to be, you know, up instead of like slumped over and being almost unconscious. So these drugs are really, really, really powerful. And actually like the size of a raindrop of fentanyl could actually kill you. So I just want you guys to like really understand kind of the background of the song so that you don't feel like I'm just like writing a pop song. That's not what this is. And the reason it came out so like 80s, 90s is because I took a lot of influence from that drug-induced era, right? The 80s and 90s, I would say the 80s mainly were like very much designer drug era, right? You had a lot of cocaine, you had a lot of crack cocaine, and you had a lot of people glamorizing drugs. And what ended up happening just as of late in the 2020s is we had this new epidemic of opiates and fentanyl and these designer drugs that I think even the youth right now are using a lot of, and they don't even know what's in them. And it's really dangerous, you know, but there's this glamorization of it all, you know, like, oh yeah, just do kratom. And like, you know, these things should make you feel good and open and, you know, and they're putting it in everything. They're putting it in like these drinks and energy drinks and acting like it's like this spiritual awakening or something. But kids don't think that way, and addicts don't think that way. They think, how do I abuse this? You know, and kratom works on the opiate receptors in your brain. So it's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't understand about these crazy opiate drugs. Okay. And I'm not here to like talk about all that. I'll let the people that have experienced it and really been crushed by it talk about it. But, you know, someone very close to me got very, very into that, addicted to it, and is an addict and is recovering, you know, and he's been sober for a little over a year now, and he's been down here in Southern California. So I've been meeting up with him as much as I can, like on weekends and shit, and just hearing these crazy stories about his experiences with these drugs influence this song. You know, it's I think that's what we do as artists. We let people talk through us, and then we turn it into art, and we create stories and music and hopefully reach a wider audience. And, you know, when you guys share the song and you guys, you know, stream it and like it and add it to playlists and stuff, it helps reach that audience, a deeper audience, a further audience, and kind of go through that experience and connect with people, right? That's what music is. That's what art is, I think. So I'm just being the translator. I'm just being the liaison between, you know, someone's story and their devastation and the destruction of their lives, and putting it into a song and a feeling, right? So it came out kind of 80s because of the designer drug kind of experience of what the 80s were, you know, this glamorization of cocaine and everyone talking about it all the time. Like the 80s were crazy, man. How so much fun, you know? But it's like also the 80s were people getting AIDS and dying and doing crack cocaine and their families getting fucked up. So there's a lot of other stuff that wasn't so cool. But I also was very influenced by that music because I loved Michael Jackson. I loved Paula Abdul, you know, one step forward and two steps back. It was like that New Jack Swing era Teddy Riley. And that's very much an influence for this stuff. Phil Collins. A lot of people tell me like this sounds like or reminds them of The Police. And I'll show you why. I'll show you the rhythms and I'll show you the things that I did in the production to make this feel that way. Okay. So here are the drums. I'm just going to go through everything with you guys. And this might be like an hour, hour and a half stream. You know what I mean? No problem. You don't have to stick around. But I'm going to give you guys everything I got and try to give you my full attention. I just ask that you guys show the same respect if you're here or if you're watching this on replay. Just like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop some love in the comments, whatever. Ask a question in the comments. Just help the channel grow and help the song get out there, you know? So here is like the full drums. This was all tracked by Kip Allen, and it actually started with this drum loop, which I chopped up like crazy, and I just wanted the kick drum out of, right? So I layered in the kick drum of this drum loop, and it sounds like this. Right, and that is your like gated 80s New Jack Swing kick drum, like straight up, like I don't know how else to say it. So then I was like, okay, Kip, I want you to, track drums on this. And so then here is his kick. In and out, I have just the Pro Q4 and the R comp on the kick in, and on the out, I have the Pro Q4 just really emphasizing the low end, right? So we have 3 kick drums. We have the sampled, and they're not always playing. Like the sampled drum loop one is only playing on certain sections. So here's the kick drum, and I'll just start unmuting the mics so you could hear the full kit. Right, so that's like the full drum kit. And then I started layering samples and stuff on top of the drum kit so that you get something different every time, and there's different sections. So you can see all of this is all drum layers and different gated snares and stuff. And during this section, there's just this like clap transition gated snare thing. And this is kind of like the pre-chorus area. So here's what that sounds like. So we start to really kind of get this acoustic drum kit that sounds pretty programmed, but is also kind of layered up so that everything starts to sound New Jack Swing, you know? I mean, that's the best way to put it. And then I have this area where I just have like these different samples playing, and they just have different timbres, and they add this just different thing to the ear, because you hear programmed drums and there's 2 programs sounding, they start to go into the back of your mind. So I wanted to just kind of like have a different hit almost on every single snare drum. So you have like one here, one here, one here, and they all just are doing different things. Right, so that starts to just kind of like, you know, ta, crew crashing, you know, it's like giving you these different timbres that feel like, oh, this is cool. Like it's got movement to it, right? And the drums are all going, like the biggest trick that I've done on these drums is I've used like this A-type, right? This UAD A-type, which has this like gated drum sound, you know, this function for gated. And this really adds to the, you know, that gated sound. But also what I did is I sent some of the drums, not all of the drums, but as you can see, the snare drums here are going to this gate here. It's a gated bus with Neutron 5 clipper after it. So it's adding some distortion and harmonics. And then it's sending parallel to bus 10. And if we go to bus 10 here on this is the T-Verb. And this T-Verb is from Eventide, which incredible plugin company that's been around forever. But this is giving you that, right? It's giving you that that very 80s feel, that Phil Collins, that you know, Sting, Prince, Purple Rain kind of gated sound, but it's organic and it's in a room, right? So it's something pretty special. I thought it was really cool. So here's the gated verb soloed with the drums here. Right, so we get this really different feeling, and that's just how I'm doing the drums. So everything in this record is done on purpose. You know, it's supposed to sound like expensive 80s, 90s ADAT tape. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going for like a modern sound. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make something new and fresh out of it for sure. Like I don't want it to sound 80, like 1988. You know, like I'm not doing that. But I am taking from those eras and trying to make it sound real kind of like distorted and driven, and especially on the chorus, right? So the chorus, if I go to the actual master bus, this is really where you're getting a lot of this tone. This 3348 tape machine, it's a Sony tape machine that this is modeled after. And this tape machine is really interesting. It's not a mechanical or a magnetic tape machine. So this is actually a storage medium, just like a floppy disk would be, right? But the tone of this thing actually came from the A to D and the D to A conversion and the EQ. And that's it. So you can even see in here the DA88. That's an ADAT machine, right? So you can look that up. I'm pretty sure it's ADAT. And there's a lot of like just the sound of that, the tone of that ADAT era in this machine, which I really like. I think it sounds really, really cool. And that's on the master bus. So that's kind of like the tone. And I've used it in other places as well. I think it's actually on the drum mix bus. Yeah, so on this drum mix bus, I also have another one of these, and then the Pro Q4, and then I have the standard clip. And the standard clip is just, you know, doing some soft clip saturation, which is doing amazing stuff for the drums. But that's kind of the idea behind the sound of all of this, was to give it this this kind of classic old school, expensive for the time period top end. And it sounds really driven once you get to the chorus.
Suddenly, it's her back in my head.
Right, so it's very much trying to make that 80s early 90s New Jack Swing, but modern, right? And make it my own. I don't want it to sound like the 80s exactly, or Phil Collins or Sting, you know? I just want people to go, oh, this reminds me of, you know? Because I love that. I love when people are reminded of something that I also like. And I'm like, yeah, that's sick, dude. I didn't think about that. I just thought about how the idea of the song came together, this drug-induced kind of feeling that you're being controlled by this addiction, you know, and her is the addiction, right? And the idea that you get to the chorus and, you know, you're saying, darling, you've stolen the night away. You're telling me I'm all right, which is like, you know, such a druggy thing. It's like, no, you're okay. You're still in control. Everything's fine. You know, you could do another hit. You're fine. You're fine. You'll quit tomorrow. You'll quit in a week. You could quit whenever, you know, that kind of idea. And then it says, when I feel nothing either way. And the idea behind when I feel nothing either way is kind of just through conversation that I was having with my little brother about drugs, you know, and why he kept doing it. And, you know, people would tell him stuff like, oh, I love you and I want you to stop doing this. And, you know, you need to go to rehab. You need to stop. You need to stop. You need to stop. But it's like he doesn't feel anything, you know, like fentanyl has this ability to control you. It has this ability to overtake your whole body, your mind, and how you think and change you and make you someone else, where you're just blank, you know, like where you would have seen my little brother when he was like in that state where it's like you can't get through to him, you know, you're not talking to him anymore, you're talking to her, you know. And that was kind of like the conversations that turned into these lyrics and these feelings and these ideas. And the production has to project that. This, you know, I'm from Portland, Oregon, and it's wet and it's dark and it's gloomy most of the year. You know, I live in Los Angeles now and I've been here for, you know, 13, 14 years. But, you know, growing up in Portland, I know that feeling, that like slick street, rain everywhere, homeless people, you know, drugs, like people on drugs. And I'm just trying to like, what does that sound like? What does that feel like? You know, what is the picture that I'm painting and the story that I'm telling with the song? That's really important to music production for me. It's important to songwriting for me, that I'm getting the point across and I'm putting someone in a place visually and really selling that idea through. So those are the drums. And when we get to the bass, really interesting thing about this is I spent a lot of time on just programming the AI bass, because after playing bass in, and I played all the instruments on this record besides the drums and the bass, obviously, right? Because I'm getting into the bass here. But this is all Logic AI bass player. And I really just liked what it did with that New Jack Swing kind of vibe. It played it perfectly, but I also like chop it up, you know, and I really spend time programming the different parts of this. And one big tip for you guys, if you're using this AI bass, if you really want it to sound really good and really human and have that feel, double click on any of the regions and go to the follow and make sure you're following something that was played by a human, right? That's my biggest tip to you if you're going to use these AI tools. So pretty much having the drummer, you know, you're going to have the drums not played perfect. It's just not going to happen, you know. No drummer is going to play them perfect, and you don't want that. You want a drummer to swing stuff, right? So if you see all these hits, like this is pretty on, but it's a little bit ahead, and then you go here and it's a little bit ahead, and then you go here and it's a little bit behind, right? All the hits are, actually that one's just perfectly on. Pretty perfectly on here. And then, yeah, a little bit ahead. And then you'll get into like different stuff where it's a little bit behind, etc. And this is just a drummer playing like a drummer and like a human. And then when you can have a human playing the feel and the swing in the pocket, and then you go to the bass player and you say, hey, follow those drums, you know, follow that human thing. On the drum mix bus, you know, like it's following the drum mix, all the drums. Now it's going to swing to those drums really well. So it's going to sound and feel much more human. And if you want to replace the AI bass player with a real bass player, fine, do it. I didn't really have time to do that. I spent a lot of time on this record and a lot of money on this record, my own money, you know what I'm saying? Like most artists do. And I encourage you to spend your money on music. Spend all your money on your art. and what you love. You know, what else are you going to spend it on? Oh, I want to buy a new TV. Like, I'm going to get a new iPhone. It's like, no, like, make music, make art, put shit out there that you're proud of that lives forever. Your iPhone's going to get thrown away. It's going to be in a landfill someday, you know? Your music's going to always be there. So spend your money on it. Invest in music, invest in art, invest in, experiences and things that are forever. That's what I do. I put all my money where my mouth is. You know, I don't tell anyone to do something that I don't already do. But I digress. Here's the bass and the drums together, and then I'll just kind of take you through it. So you notice that pattern is its own thing, and that's the verses. And then I have a pattern here for the pre-chorus where I kind of hang the notes out more. Now, here's another thing about programming these kind of basses. See, I'm following now the guitar pre-telly. So the guitar pre-telly is playing like these chords, these padded chords, right? So this is where you get the bass starting to follow these chords. So it's going to now lock in with that instead of the drums. You see what I'm saying? So it's very important that you understand what you're trying to lock in with and what feel you're trying to get from that. And it'll make you a better producer also. Like, I don't mind AI tools. I am pretty against the idea of just shitting out AI music by prompting something. There's nothing creative about that, right? Like, make a song in the style of this or this person or that producer or this writer, and then Suno shits something out. It's like, you're not being creative. You're programming. You're telling someone to do something, right? This is more creative to me. You know, being able to say, oh, now the bass needs to do this. And I could play this by myself, right? I could play all this stuff the bass player's playing. But to do it this way, I can change things on the fly and I can move things around. And yeah, I could have got to a point, like I said earlier, where I just took this and said, hey, I need a bass player to play this. But it's like, I really like the tone of this. I thought it matched really well. And on the bass, I'm actually using the Rickenbacker here, you know, the rock bass. And it just sounds really good. I mess around with the definition, the mute, and then I have pick playing and stuff. So it feels right for the song. And if it didn't feel right for the song, but I liked the playing and the ideas and stuff, then yeah, I would have just got a bass player on it. But this worked, and so I kept it, you know. Not everything needs to be changed. Not everything needs to be recorded. Not everything needs to be, resampled or whatever. It just needs to feel right for the song, and then you move forward. And I'm a big advocate of that because a lot of artists don't put out music, because they get stuck on something. So if you're stuck on something, hire someone, ask for help, whatever, get a bass player to play it. Get a producer to help you out, whatever. But don't just sit on your shit. Get your music out there. Share it with the world. They want to know these stories. So that's the drums and bass. Let's get into the vocals because I think the vocals are, the most important part of any song for the most part. So here's the lead vocal with the drums and bass.
Too many colors collide in my head, blacking out to a rhythmic rush. What's another night of losing a grip? Darling, where shall we start? Suddenly, it's her back in my hands. Suddenly.
So there you go. This is really for me, just really getting that dreamy state going. I was writing and writing and writing, and dude, it's embarrassing if I show you, like, I'll unhide tracks, you know? Like, look at all these different vocal tracks with multiple takes of stuff for, like, the writing process for me, you know? Like, there's 7 takes in this one, you know? Which really, like, 3 or 4, but, you know, I'm just, like, trying things and experimenting with stuff and trying to get a pocket and find a cadence and all that. And then, of course, the lyrics are coming to me through stories that I heard from my little brother about getting high and about, you know, his girlfriend at the time overdosing and him hearing a big loud bang in the kitchen and going like, what the fuck was that? And they're both high and she's overdosing and she's purple. And then he has to pick her up and bounce her to get her to come back to life. And just all these like crazy stories that just really kind of make me... it's pretty sad, honestly. Like, it's fucked up. And you never want any human to go through any of that stuff. But, you know, I want to translate that into a song that feels like not just those very specific stories, but the overall feeling of addiction. And, you know, Too Many Colors Collide in my head is like the idea of, you know, that first hit that someone takes off of a drug that's as powerful as fentanyl, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, whoa, all these colors and just you're like, whoa, I feel amazing. Euphoria hits, and then it's blacking out to a rhythmic rush. It's like blacking out, but then a rhythmic rush of like also doing methamphetamines and filling up. And then, you know, what's another night of losing a grip, you know? Darling, where shall we start? It's like saying like, what's another night of it? You know, we should keep going because this feels so good. You know, where do we start? You know, it's talking to the drug. It's talking to the addiction, talking to the you know, the person, the thing that is like luring you in. And then it's because suddenly it's her back in my hands. And that's a metaphor for the drugs, for the addiction, you know. It's like suddenly too, it just happens, right? And it's her back in my hands. Suddenly I'm not so alone. Suddenly I feel a little bit better. You know, I feel like this is okay and I feel great again. And that's why people that are addicts do these hard drugs, because they feel insanely good, like when they're on the drugs. And then because suddenly it's night again in my head, suddenly I'm in her control, you know, I'm out of control. I'm not in control of my own body anymore. It's the drugs. It's like what I've done, what's taking me off, what's taking over. So there is like some, when I'm talking about these things and when we get to these parts, subconsciously, I'm trying to think about what that production feels like. So for example, when we get to that pre-chorus where it's like, suddenly, you know, it's her back in my hands. Like when I get there, these acoustic guitars and this different rhythm comes in where it's like, oh, now I'm getting high again. You know, I'm feeling it again. I'm feeling good again. It's like coming back to that warm spot where you feel incredible. And that's when all these kind of acoustic guitars come in.
Suddenly, it's her back in my hands. Suddenly, I'm not so alone. 'Cause suddenly, it's night again in my head. Suddenly, I'm in.
You know, it's revoicing and reharmonizing the acoustic guitars so that they feel warm and they feel exciting and they feel like comforting again, you know, like I'm on this thing again. I'm on this fentanyl again and I just feel fucking incredible again, you know? But when I'm off of it, I feel so bad. So I want to feel that incredible feeling again that I get from nothing else in the world. And that's what addiction is. That's really the truth about addiction. That's why people keep going back to those drugs. You know, normal people, like maybe you and I, right? We don't think like that. We think like, why would you ever do fentanyl? Why would you ever do heroin? You know, why would you touch those drugs? You know what I'm saying? That's insane. That's going to ruin your life. It's not that way for an addict. And an addict is like, no. When I do those, I feel amazing. I feel the best I've ever felt. I feel like I'm a better version of myself, you know? Like I feel like people like me more, you know? Like I'm a better person. I'm elevated, you know? And to a normal person, it's like, nah, man, you know, that's fucking crazy. And it's going to destroy your brain and it's going to make you insane and you're going to be a drug addict and it's going to screw your whole life up, which it does. It does for most people. You also got to remember there's people that do like heroin like every once in a while, you know? So it's there's a big difference between an addict and someone that like recreationally can use drugs. You know, even someone that just smokes weed all day long every day, they're addicts. Straight up. Like, I don't care what you guys think about any of that. Like, this is just like a basic principle of life. If you rely on something and it controls your life and you can't do anything without it, you're an addict. You're addicted to it, you know? Like, and it's affecting your life, you know? That's a big part of addiction. It's like, it can't just be that you smoke all day, every day, and it doesn't affect your life in any way. It has to be like, oh, I don't do certain things because of it, and I do certain things because of it, you know? Then you're an addict. Like, that's just straight up. But yeah, some drugs obviously are much more, much more powerful, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to compare fentanyl to weed. That's not the point. The point is addiction, you know? So, and how addicts think and how the addict brain is. So here are the vocals and the vocal chain on here. I use the Slate Digital ML1 mic on it. The 251 Blackbird is my favorite mic. You know, I really do like this mic a lot on my voice. It's a go-to for me. It's either that or the 103. And with the 103, I do, you know, some processing and stuff differently. Because this already has like a 5K, 5500 boost where it kind of shelves up. So you got to be careful of that area. And it's also TLM, it's transformerless, right? This has a big transformer in it and a tube. So 251 tube and transformer. And then we have the FG116 doing compression. So it looks like this.
Suddenly, it's her back in my hand. Suddenly.
So as you can see, this is in parallel as well. It's mixed 50%. And then we hit, so we have parallel compression, and then we hit a compressor here, which is a magical compressor. Audioscape, V-Comp, like a stay level, insanely good. I just have it on the vintage setting and the single mode. Sometimes I go double, but double's really intense. And you can see the recovery time is pretty slow. And this is doing this much.
Suddenly, it's her back in my hand. Suddenly, I'm not so alone.
Just keeps that vocal steady, right? And up front. And it really is a smooth compressor. I really love it. And then the Metatune, I'm not like out of tune or anything, but this adds this different sheen to it that feels more 80s, 90s to me, right? It feels more like a modern kind of thing. So here's without it.
Suddenly, it's her back in my hand. Suddenly, I'm not so alone. Suddenly, it's her back in my hand. Suddenly, I'm not so alone.
So what the Metatune really helps with is it helps with the release on the notes. So when I get to, 'cause suddenly it's her back in my hands. Suddenly I'm not so alone. You know, when it goes to the alone, it's going to hold that note a little bit better. So when it throws into the reverb, it's not going, I'm not so alone. Like getting kind of low, you know. Instead, it's like holding that note. So the reverb sounds real nice, oof, you know. So that's what the tuning does. That's why I like tuning on my voice very, you know, I just pop it on there. It's not like, it's not that out of tune. I could get away with it not being on at all. And a lot of people just like it without tune, you know. They're like, oh, I like it with the kind of, you know, flat and sharp notes. It's fine, but I wanted this to sound like a glossy record, you know. A glossy 80s, 90s record. Pro DS, favorite DSer of all time. Pro Q4. So this is doing this 2100. This is the part I had a hard time with in my vocal in this range with this note on the pre-chorus.
Suddenly I feel the night blow away. Suddenly I feel.
So you can see where that starts to take that down, right? So also the chorus, I think, you know, because I'm going up there's I'm basically like jumping like a third, I think, something like that. So the first part of the chorus is, you know, darling, you've stolen the night away. And then we go, darling, you've stolen, you know, we're going up.
Hey, darling, you've stolen the night away. Telling me.
Right? So that's the first part of the chorus, but I actually have a different vocal setting for this chorus lead. And you can see it's just a little different on the EQ. And here's, I'll show you where it's hitting that note.
Hey, darling, you've stolen the night away. Telling me I'm alright when I feel nothing night away.
Right? We just want to really make sure that those certain notes don't like peak out when I'm hitting them, because it's really hard when you sing in my range, you know, where, darling, you stolen, you know, you're almost yelling into the microphone. And when you hit certain notes, the microphone is going to respond to it a lot differently, right? It's going to go, ah, you know, and you're like, oh crap. So you got to really kind of just like smooth those things out. And that's what the EQ is doing there dynamically, right? So that's a dynamic EQ on that, as you can see. So that, and then what else? Yeah, Valhalla Vintage Verb. And this combo going Valhalla Vintage Verb chamber into the UAD AMS RMX 16 expanded, one of my favorites. Right, this is like my reverb tone for anything I'm going for, like that vintage tone for. And this is the lead vocal on the verse. It's a little different, you can see. So I have the Valhalla, the AMS, but then I also have a Pro Q4 doing even more on top of that. And then I'm sending to a parallel compression on the vocals, which sounds like this. Here, I'm just gonna solo out the parallel compression on the vocals on the verse.
What's another night of losing a grip? Darling, where shall we start? 'Cause suddenly, it's her back in my hands. Suddenly, I'm not so alone. 'Cause suddenly, it's night again in my head. Suddenly, I'm in her control.
So you hear how that just like pushes the mids forward on the vocal. And that makes it feel more retro to me. It makes it feel more vintage modern, right? And here is what I'm doing with the EQ after this pulsar moo. And the pulsar moo is really smooth. It's a very smooth compression, a tube compressor, you know, variable mu compressor. And then we have this EQ, which is taking the tops out and the bottoms out. And that's really, really important to my parallel vocal compression. Just kind of adds that nice push forward to get that vocal to feel real full and thick. And the other thing I'm doing to make it feel full and thick is my widening bus, which is the doubler 2 with the S1 imager with some Pro Q3, right? And again, we're just pushing the mids, so 1300, and then taking down some things that were peaky. Like you see, when 2100 starts popping up, you're gonna find it everywhere in the vocal because that's what happens, right? So you don't want to bring that back in on a parallel or on a widening bus or on a reverb return. So you gotta kind of watch out for that 2100 every time it pops up, because every time you hit that note, you gotta make sure to smooth out that frequency. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, because that stuff can compound on you really, really quickly. And the thickening bus soloed sounds like this.
Where shall we start? 'Cause suddenly, it's her back in my hands. Suddenly.
Right, so now let's put it in the mix, and I'll mute it and put it in and out.
Where shall we start? 'Cause suddenly, it's her back in my hands. Suddenly, I'm not so alone. 'Cause suddenly, it's night again in my head. Suddenly, I'm in her control.
So the way that that thickening bus works is I will bring it up until I'm like, I can feel it, but I can't hear it, you know? So sometimes I'll bring it way up and I'll be like, I can hear it, I can hear it, I can hear it, I can hear it, I don't hear it, but I still feel it when I bypass it. And all that's doing is really just kind of thickening up the vocal in the middle. So it's giving it more space in the middle, stretching it out to the left and right a little bit more. Okay. So little vocal stabs and stuff, you know, like these suddenly, anytime you have something in the record that is special, like suddenly is like, such a phrase of like, oh shit, this is happening now, you know? So I wanted to emphasize that. So these vocals are just emphasizing this.
'Cause suddenly,
right? So I'm just getting those, 'cause suddenly, you know, it's like really, really cool. Also, you're hearing like distortion and stuff in the vocals when I solo them because we're going through a master bus, right? Because you should be feeding a master bus very complex waveforms. So it actually sounds like this.
'cause suddenly, 'cause suddenly, it's night again in my head. Suddenly I'm in her control.
Right? So these are like, it's very important that when you solo things and you're going through a master bus chain, that you bypass the limiting and stuff, because it's just going to, you know, bring everything up like crazy because you're not hitting it with drums and bass and a complex waveform. So it's going to react completely different. Okay. So just something to note. And then all these, for the most part, vocals are going to this vocal mix bus, which has another one of these Audioscape V-comps on it. But as you can see, I'm mixing, it's paralleled in at 46%. First of all, we're on the modern style, which is a lot less compression feeling. It doesn't have as much grit to it. And then Pro Q4 doing cleanup, and Soothe 2. Soothe 2 is really just focusing on the S's, right? The sibilants, the top stuff. And yeah, you could check all that out. You guys can steal anything you want, you know, screenshot, whatever you want. It doesn't matter, you know. Take all my chains. It's all good. All right. So those are the vocals, and they're pretty straightforward. It's just really like getting the performances down. And then vocals for the chorus. Here are all the stacks, all the layers and doubles and harmonies.
Darling, you've stolen the night away, telling me I'm alright when I feel nothing either way. Darling, you've stolen the night away, telling me I'm alright when I feel nothing either way. Another regret embalmed on my lips, dried up eyes burning in daylight. I need her to pull me out this mess. What's another night? Yeah, suddenly it's her back in my hands. Suddenly, 'cause suddenly my head, suddenly I'm back in her control.
So there you go. Those are all the vocals. Those are kind of the stacks and the punches and everything. When I get to the last chorus, the only difference is, as you can see with the stacks, I just let these low ones come in and stay in, right? So these just come in and they stay in, so that it feels like the vocals like got bigger.
Darling, you've stolen the night away, telling me I'm alright when I feel nothing either way. Darling, you've stolen the night away, telling me I'm alright when I feel nothing either way.
And then I just take the lead vocal out for that last final push of the solo sax, you know, the sax solo, because I want the the sax solo to come up front and be like, this is the lead now, right? And the sax solo kind of represents like the out of controlness, you know? It's like just take over, someone else take over, you know what I mean? I really like the sax solo. I think it's really dope. But those are the vocals. And then guitars. Guitars are like a huge part of this song. I spent a lot of time tracking guitars myself and just coming up with different rhythms and polyrhythms, counter rhythms, I guess. Not really polyrhythms, but rhythms that kind of bounce off each other. So if we kind of go through these chorus guitars, these guitars are the ones that I'm like the most like, oh dude, I really fuck with this sound. And I thought this was really, really good. And then I just kind of like started stacking layers of guitars off of these guitars. So what we have here is the Milkman Creamer, right? And this has like the slap, and it has the boost. It's got the amp, you know, all that stuff. And then it has the Tricera chorus from Eventide again. And that's going to give it that kind of just like 80s druggy kind of stuff, you know, Prince kind of vibes. And then we got the Pro Q4, which is really just kind of focusing here and taking down some of the real top and the bottom. Okay. So these guitars are very much like the foundation for the rhythm on the chorus. Right, so those have like their own feel to them, right? But by themselves, they're kind of like, that's not that exciting, right? It doesn't get me moving and dancing the way I want to dance. So then I add on top of that, these rhythm guitars with the Telly and the Jag, again, panned left and right. And you can see they're panned in a little bit tighter, right? But this is where I start to stack up the Safari Silver Llama with the Twin Panda. So I'm using 2 amps back to back, which gives it a certain sound. And then Pro Q4 just kind of doing some EQ. So these guitars, when we add these in, we get a different feel and a different rhythm and kind of a counter. Right now I want to just keep adding new rhythms so that my body can kind of like move to, you know, different pulses. So you're not just moving to a quarter or an eighth note or a 16th. You're starting to get some kind of like different pockets and syncopation in there. So then I add these other guitars on top of that. Right, so that's really where you're getting your danceability. It's starting to get dancey, starting to feel, you know, more like, you know, groovy, I guess, because like you get the syncopation in the guitars. So the guitars with the bass and the drums, right? Because like that's honestly the foundation for my whole rhythm section is going to be all of this together, right? And it sounds like this for the chorus, which is something I spent a lot of time on, just so you know, like just like experimenting. And I think experimentation is like the key to making great records. It's not just putting something down and going like, yep, that's it, I'm gonna write a song on it. Like, it's like, no, find a different pocket, find something that's a little bit more unique, find something that's unique to you personally. And, you know, maybe you've heard before, but it's like something that you spent time like dissecting and like fucking with, you know, tinkering with. So here's just the rhythm section. All right, so how do we take that? Because here's I always worry, right? Like that I'm gonna make this like guitar song. Yeah. And I don't want that. I wanna make something that's different. I want to make something that's unique to me, what I like, okay? Fuck you guys. Like, I don't care if you like this song or not. Truly, I don't care, okay? But I do want to share this with you guys, and I do want the people that do get it and do like it to go like, dude, I get it, and I like it. You get what I'm saying? Like, you don't want everyone to like you. I don't want all the people that I just, you know, don't ever want to be around liking me. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to be liked by everybody. I don't need all my music to be liked by everybody. But the people that get it and the people that are like gravitate towards it, I want them to really go like, holy shit, I love what you did there. Like, that's fucking cool, you know? So that's kind of where I'm going with it. But to make sure that it didn't turn into just like, you know, drums, guitar, bass, you know, sort of rock and roll sort of rock thing, I started adding these different synths. And this is where I use the BA1 a lot on this one. I don't know why, I just gravitated towards it. It felt like the right sound for it. And then I also have some of the Juno 106 in here, which I only use sparingly in different parts. And I think I only use it here on verse 1. So yeah, this verse 1 Juno 106 comes in for just these chords right here. And it just has this Galaxy tape echo doing the da 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 da, right? Otherwise, it's just the Juno with the chorus on. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing crazy. And I put 26 because that's the preset I made. And then I'll save that preset once I tweak it for the song. So like my Juno 106 has my sounds in it, you know? Like you could go 1 through like 500 or whatever. You're going to hear this Juno sounding different than anybody else's Juno. It's going to sound like mine and like the records I make, right? Because I have all my presets saved that I save from these records. Okay, so there's that. And then for the chorus, going back to the chorus, here is the BA1 stuff that I added to it, which is really what takes it out of the rock world and makes it more like a modern indie pop rock kind of vibe, right? Right, so now you got like these synth layers mixed with acoustic drums, mixed with sampled programmed drums, mixed with electric guitars, mixed with acoustic guitars, mixed with like it's just like a human analog synth like hybrid kind of thing going on, which is just what I like. I just like that kind of sound, right? So it's all blending together, and I don't want you to hear those synths. I want you to kind of just feel them. And so the main part that you're going to hear the synth is just this in part, this in lick at the end of the chorus. Right, and that's just like a melody I think that people they're gonna remember, you know, like they're gonna hum that. So anything that's sticky to me I like, because I grew up with ADHD, like pretty bad, my whole family with ADHD. So like I need things to be sticky. I need them to be memorable. I need them to be earwormy, or else I forget stuff, you know. And with music, like that's like my it's like my worst nightmares to like forget something. Like, oh, I wrote something really good. Was it good? You know, so if it's not if it's not really sticky for me, it's not really that great, I guess, that's the point I'm trying to make. So anything I write or I put in here, I want to remember it, right? And then the last thing that I have in here, the intro, I was messing around with this, and I had all sorts of different intros to this until I came up with this kind of thing with Andrew, my sax player. And I layered this up with some Junos at the beginning here. Very subtle, but it's like thickening up and giving that sax a different feel. So the first thing you hear, you're kind of like, whoa, this is new, right? You don't go like, oh, I've heard a sax before. You kind of go like, that sax sounds different, you know? And you don't know why. A lot of people won't know why, and it doesn't matter. I don't care. You know, like I know why, and I know what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to evoke, what feeling I'm trying to evoke in people. And it doesn't need to be anything, you know, that I don't like. It doesn't need to be like, you know, it doesn't need to be heard. It just needs to be felt, I guess, is the best way to put it. So that's everything, really. Master bus, going to the master bus, we have a bunch of stuff on here. Like I said before, this is kind of like giving me that expensive 80s, early 90s sound, right? That ADAT sound, followed by the Sooth 2. And this is just taming I always use this same preset and I tweak it, you know, DS, low mid, clean up 1 or 2. All right. So that is like my preset on Sooth 2 for the master bus. It's the only thing I use on the master bus. I would never use any other preset from Sooth on the master bus. Just the way it is for me personally right now. And then gold clip. Love gold clip on this. It's something that is going to give it that more modern feel because it pushes up the low end, and this Alchemy high end limits starting at around 1K. So around 1K, it's going to start to limit the high end, which is going to add these nice harmonics, and it's also going to soften the top a little bit more. So if I turn that way up, you're going to get rid of that kind of like ADAT digital distortion top, which I wouldn't like. So I just barely did that 0.67. You know, I want that kind of distorted thing going on in the top. I think that's really important to this record. It sounds kind of cheap. like, dude, think about like heroin and fentanyl and methamphetamines. These are like cheap designer drugs. You know what I'm saying? They're not, they're like kind of gross. They're kind of dirty, you know, like methamphetamine is fucking dirty. You know, I don't know if any of you guys know what bathtub crank is, but like a lot of speed and crank and meth is made in bathtubs with like, you know, they used to use like Sudafed or really anything they could get their hands on. And that is kind of the sound. It's like this like dirty designer drug kind of sound. So, and that's what I'm trying to evoke. UAD Manly, obviously variable mu, I need it. And then Pro Q4, in very high on the linear phase because I'm on the master bus. I don't know why I do that. I just think it's like a mental thing. And then Pro MB is like actually something I rarely ever use on the master bus, but I felt like this needed taming. And I'll go through these bands real quick for you guys so you can hear them and what they're doing in the crossovers. It's amazing what the Pro MB is doing just to like hold it all together. It's like you let it loose and it's like all kind of loosey-goosey, and then it's like shoop, it like kind of tightens up, and I like that. Bradley or Walter White, I like that. Good question, man. Good question. So then the God Particle is the last, and God Particle is doing crazy heavy lifting. Like I won't deny that at all. I just love the sound of the God Particle. I think it's really mainly for the harmonics that are happening here, but a little bit of mid cut, a little bit of lows, and leaving the high in there, and 111 on the amount here. So like just bypassing the harmonic here.
Suddenly I feel the night blow away. Darling, you're stolen the night away. Telling me I'm alright when I feel nothing either way. Darling, you're stolen the night away.
Man, the harmonics just make it so much more vibrant, you know? It's like, whoa. It's like everything kind of goes, Sah! It's like pops out at you and comes and gets you. So love that. And I'm hitting pretty hard, man. Like, let's check the luffs right quick.
Telling me I'm alright when I feel nothing either way. Another regret and bomb on my lips. Try to buy.
Yeah, we're up in like -3.5 land, you know what I'm saying? So this is a loud record, and I love that. I love how loud it is. Like, check this out. This is the last chorus. Let's go here and look at the lefts. I mean, that's fucking loud, you know what I mean? But yeah, you guys, thanks for joining me with all this, and hopefully this was cool for you guys. Get a little behind the scenes of it and the story behind the song. And you know, if you want to support the song, I'll leave a link in the description. You can check it out. But it's her on all platforms, Bradley Denniston. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, and you know, support the song. And you know, really, this is a song about addiction. This is a really serious song. And I was just trying to, you know, be the liaison between somebody that, you know, was addicted to this stuff and really destroyed his life with it, and making something out of it and just kind of like translating that experience. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys, your support with all the music and everything. And with the channel, if you guys want to support the channel, just hit the thumbs up on the video, share the video, subscribe, whatever, you know, whatever you want to do, whatever you can do. I'm not asking for any money or anything. Just show love, show support. And if you got any questions at all about the song, anything else like that I'm doing here, just drop them in the comments of the video. And I'll try to do more of these. I don't know. Do you guys like this live format? Let me know, because maybe I'll just like, instead of doing the, you know, edited versions of these videos, I'll do like a live version, and then maybe I'll have an editor cut this one down. You know what I mean? Just kind of cut out all the, all me blabbering. You feel me? But appreciate y'all coming by, and have a great Sunday and enjoy the music. I'll keep it coming. You know, got a lot new records coming. So stay tuned.